Imagine you're standing on your back porch on a Tuesday evening. The sun has dipped just below the horizon, leaving the world in that bruised, purple twilight where shapes begin to lose their edges. It's a quiet moment. You reach into your pocket, and the metallic jingle of your house keys rings out, a sharp, tiny sound that barely registers to your own ears. You don't think anything of it. You've lived here for years. You're just a person in a yard, holding a set of keys, thinking about what to have for dinner. But 50 yards away, inside the treeline where the shadows are thickest, a doe that had been calmly grazing on clover suddenly snaps her head up. Her ears swivel like radar dishes. Her muscles, which a second ago were fluid and relaxed, have turned into coiled springs. She doesn't wait to see if you have a weapon. She doesn't wait to see if you've noticed her. The mere vibration of that metal, the specific frequency of a human-made object, has triggered an ancient, chemical alarm in her brain. She vanishes into the brush, her white tail a flickering ghost of a warning. You didn't even see her, but you've already changed her entire night. You've moved through the world like a stone dropped into a still pond, and the ripples you've created are made of pure, cold terror. This is the mundane reality of our existence. We don't have to be hunters to be terrifying. We don't even have to be looking. Our presence is a shadow that stretches far beyond our sight, a ghost trace that the rest of the living world has spent thousands of years learning to fear. That shadow we cast begins with a scent, an invisible trail that leaks off our skin and follows us like a funeral shroud. To a predator like a wolf or a mountain lion, the air is not empty, it is a map. When you walk through a forest, you are leaving a chemical signature that screams your identity to every nose within a mile. We smell like the things we eat, the soaps we use, and the stress we carry, but more than that, we smell like human. It's a scent that doesn't exist anywhere else in nature. For an animal, catching a whiff of a person isn't like smelling a bear or a cougar. Those animals are part of the predictable rhythm of the woods. A bear smells like a bear. It has a territory, a season, and a hunger that follows certain rules. But the scent of a human is a disruption. It represents an animal that doesn't follow the laws of the wild. When that scent hits the olfactory bulb of a red fox, the animal's heart rate doesn't just increase, it doubles. It stops its hunt for a field mouse, ignoring its own hunger, because the ghost trace of a human has overwritten its survival instincts. The fox knows that wherever this scent is, the rules of the game have changed. It doesn't matter if you're a hiker with a camera or a hunter with a rifle. To the fox, the scent itself is the danger. It is the signature of a creature that can strike from a distance, a creature that brings noise and light into the dark places. The shadow we cast is so heavy that animals will often abandon perfectly good territory just because our scent lingers on a fence post or a discarded piece of trash. We are the only animal that can haunt a forest without even being in it. That shadow, that long legacy of dread, has a sound that is even more potent than our scent. We tend to think that the most frightening sound in nature is a roar or a growl, the guttural, low-frequency warning of a large carnivore. But science is beginning to show us that we are wrong. For most animals, the most terrifying sound in the world is the sound of two humans having a quiet conversation. Think about that. Not a scream, not a gunshot, not the revving of a chainsaw, just the lilt and cadence of human speech. In the vast, open savannas of Africa, where lions have reigned as the undisputed kings for millions of years, the sound of a human voice is more effective at clearing a waterhole than the sound of a pride of lions. When researchers played recordings of human conversation at night, they found that even the apex predators, the lions themselves, fled the scene 95% of the time. They didn't just move away, they ran. They abandoned their kills. They retreated into the thickets. In comparison, when those same lions heard the recorded snarls of other lions, or even the barking of hunting dogs, they stayed put or even moved toward the sound to investigate. But the human voice? That is a different category of threat. It is the sound of the one creature that has spent the last 50,000 years rewriting the food chain. To a lion, another lion is a competitor, but a human is a catastrophe. Our voices are the acoustic shadow of a species that organized, invented, and conquered. We are the sound of the unnatural. To understand why this shadow grew so large, We have to look back at how we evolved into something the world wasn't prepared for. We weren't born with the tools of a top-tier predator. We don't have the crushing jaws of a hyena, the lightning speed of a cheetah, or the camouflaged fur of a leopard. In the beginning, we were the ones hiding in the shadows. We were the ones being eaten. But then we did something no other animal had ever done. We invented distance. Before humans, if a predator wanted to kill you, it had to put its body next to yours. It had to risk its own life in a physical struggle. But we created the spear, the bow, and eventually, the rifle. We became the only animal that could kill from across a clearing, or even across a valley. This broke the fundamental contract of nature. In the wild, if you are a deer and you stay 50 yards away from a wolf, you are safe. You can see the wolf can see you, and there is a mutual understanding of the distance required for a successful attack. But humans ignored that distance. We could stand in the safety of a cliffside and end a life without ever feeling the heat of the prey's breath. This created a new kind of evolutionary pressure. Animals that weren't afraid of the weak, slow ape died out. The ones that survived were the ones that learned to treat the mere sight or sound of a human as a death sentence. We didn't just become predators, we became what scientists call super predators. We kill adult, healthy animals at rates that are exponentially higher than any other carnivore on Earth. We don't take the weak and the sick, we take the biggest and the strongest for their meat, their fur, or their trophies. We shifted the entire direction of evolution, selecting for animals that are smaller, more secretive, and above all, more terrified of us. This legacy has created what ecologists call a landscape of fear, where our shadow is cast over every acre of the planet, even the places we rarely visit. A landscape of fear isn't just an emotional state, it's a physical reality that changes how ecosystems function. Imagine a mountain range where humans have built a single, winding road. Even if that road only sees a few cars a day, the shadow of our presence ripples outward for miles. The mountain lions in the area hear the hum of the tires and the occasional slam of a car door, and they stop hunting near the road. Because the mountain lions have pulled back, the deer population in that specific strip of forest explodes. They overgraze the saplings, the songbirds lose their nesting sites, and the very structure of the forest begins to change. The trees become older and thinner because no new growth can survive the deer. All of this happens because of the fear of a creature that might not even be there. We have become a ghost in the machine of nature, an invisible hand that pushes and pulls on the lives of every creature. Some animals, like raccoons or crows, have learned to live in the edges of our shadow, thriving on our waste. But for the vast majority of the wild world, our presence is a radioactive zone. They have learned that to be seen by us is to risk everything. They have become nocturnal, shifting their entire lives into the darkness just to avoid the hours when we are most active. We have effectively colonized the daylight, pushing the rest of life into the fringes of the clock. If we look at the hard data, the sheer scale of this shadow becomes even more unsettling. In 2015, a landmark study led by Chris Darramont at the University of Victoria analyzed over 2,100 populations of wild animals across the globe. The research, published in the journal Science, revealed a staggering truth. Humans kill large carnivores, lions, wolves, and bears, at 9 times the rate that these predators kill each other. In the oceans, the numbers are even more lopsided. We harvest adult fish at a rate 14 times higher than all other marine predators combined. This is the definition of a super predator. We are not a normal part of the food web, we are an outside force that the web is struggling to support. This data explains why the fear is so deep-seated. It's not just a bad feeling an animal has, it's a rational response to a statistical certainty. If you are a large animal on this planet, your biggest threat is not starvation, disease, or a rival predator. It is a human being. The study pointed out that we have become unique predators because we target the reproductive capital of a species, the healthy adults that keep the population going, whereas every other predator targets the interest, the young, and the infirm. By taking the adults, we aren't just killing individuals, we are wounding the future of the species. This is why the fear is so intense. It is a biological memory of a species that is being systematically dismantled. The specifics of how this fear manifests were explored in a series of groundbreaking experiments by Justin Suraci and Liana Zanet. In 2019, Suraci and his team at UC Santa Cruz conducted a study on mountain lions in the Santa Cruz Mountains. They set up high-fidelity speakers at kill sites where mountain lions were feeding. When the lions triggered the speakers, they were played two types of sounds: the neutral sound of frogs croaking, or the sound of humans speaking in a calm, conversational tone. The results were dramatic and immediate. When they heard the human voices, the mountain lions fled 83% of the time. They didn't just leave their meal, they often never came back. Their feeding time dropped by more than half. Think about the energy cost of that. A mountain lion has to expend an enormous amount of energy to hunt and kill a deer. To abandon that meat because of a recorded voice is a massive biological blow. The fear of us is so great that these apex predators are willing to starve rather than risk a confrontation with the ghost of a person. Taking it a step further, Liana Zanet conducted a similar study in South Africa's Kruger National Park in 2023, published in Current Biology. This is one of the last true strongholds for the world's most famous predators. Her team played recordings of humans talking, lions snarling, and bird calls to a wide range of animals at local watering holes. They found that 95% of the species, including giraffes, leopards, hyenas, zebras, and even elephants, were significantly more likely to flee when they heard the human voice compared to the sound of a lion. They ran faster, they ran further, and they stayed away longer. The researchers noted that the animals seemed to perceive humans as a super threat that transcended the normal rules of the savanna. An elephant is big enough to defend itself against a lion, and it knows it. But an elephant cannot defend itself against the invisible reach of a human, and it seems to know that, too. This isn't just about being a hunter, it's about the fact that we are the only animal that can destroy an entire environment. We are the animal that brings the drought, the animal that cuts the forest, the animal that poisons the water. The fear isn't just about our spears, it's about our footprint. This fear is so deeply ingrained that it has become a hereditary trait in many species. In the field of ethology, there is a concept known as island tameness. When animals evolve on islands where there are no humans and no large predators, they lose their fear response. This is why the dodo was so easily hunted to extinction, and why the tortoises of the Galapagos will let a person walk right up to them. They don't have the fear of the shadow in their DNA. But for every animal on the mainland, that fear has been forged in the fire of thousands of generations of contact with us. It is a cultural and genetic transmission of trauma. Mothers teach their young where not to go, what sounds to listen for, and what smells to avoid. If a fawn doesn't learn to fear the scent of a human, it doesn't live long enough to have its own fawns. We have effectively bred the wildness out of the world, leaving only the secretive. The animals that are left are the ones that are the best at hiding from us. We look out at a forest and think it's empty, but it's not. It's full of eyes that are watching us, waiting for us to pass, holding their breath until the shadow of our presence moves on. Even our leisure activities, the things we do to connect with nature, are an extension of this shadow. When we go hiking, we think we're being peaceful. We're not hunting, we're not logging, we're just walking. But to the wildlife, we are a mobile zone of dread. Studies have shown that even low-impact recreation like hiking or mountain biking can cause animals to stress eat, abandon their young, or expend vital calories fleeing from a perceived threat. A 2008 study in conservation biology found that the presence of hikers on trails reduced the diversity and abundance of native carnivores like bobcats and coyotes by more than fivefold. The animals didn't leave because we were hurting them, they left because the landscape of fear had become too intense. They could smell us on the trails, they could hear our gear clicking, and they could hear our voices. To them, we were a constant, unpredictable predator that had claimed the most beautiful parts of the forest for ourselves. We are the only animal that loves nature to death, scaring away the very things we go into the woods to see. This brings us to a strange paradox. We are the most dominant species on Earth, yet we are also the most isolated. We have created a world where we are the only ones left in the light. Every other creature has retreated into the shadows, the high peaks, the deep oceans, or the middle of the night. We sit in our houses and watch nature documentaries, marveling at the beauty of the wild, but the only reason those documentaries can be made is because filmmakers spend months in camouflaged blinds, trying to erase their shadow so the animals will act naturally. The moment the cameraman steps out of the blind, the nature vanishes. We have become a species that can only observe life by pretending we don't exist. We are like a giant who wants to make friends with a colony of ants, but every time we take a step, we trigger an earthquake. We want to be part of the world, but we have spent too much time being its conqueror. So, why are animals afraid of humans? They are afraid because they are experts at reading the history of the world, and our history is one of relentless expansion and unpredictable violence. They are afraid because we have broken the rules of distance and the rules of the hunt. They are afraid because we are a super predator that doesn't just eat, we rearrange. When you hear that deer bolt in the woods, or see that hawk take flight as your car passes, you are seeing the result of a 50,000-year-old lesson. That lesson is simple. The soft-bodied ape is the most dangerous thing in the universe. We don't have to show our teeth to be a threat. We don't have to carry a gun to be a killer. We just have to be there. Our presence is a signal, a high-pitched scream in the frequency of survival that never stops ringing. You've probably felt it yourself, in reverse. When you're alone in the deep woods at night, and you hear a twig snap behind you, your skin crawls. Your heart hammers against your ribs. You feel small, vulnerable, and primitive. In that moment, you are touching the old world, the world where we were the prey. But then you turn on your flashlight, or you reach for your phone, or you remember the car is just a mile away, and the fear fades. You have the tools to push the dark back. But the animal in the brush doesn't have a flashlight. It doesn't have a car. It only has its instincts, and those instincts tell it that you are the thing that waits in the dark. It tells it that your voice is the sound of the end. We are the nightmare that the rest of the world is having, and we are the only ones who can't see the monster. Think about that the next time you're outside. The next time you're walking your dog, or sitting on your porch, or driving through a rural highway at night. You aren't just a person moving through space. You are a biological event. You are a walking, breathing warning label. The birds that stop singing as you pass aren't being rude, they're surviving. The squirrels that chatter from the high branches are sounding the alarm. To you, it's just a Tuesday. To the rest of the planet, it's an encounter with the most successful and terrifying predator in the history of life on Earth. We have spent our entire history trying to separate ourselves from the animals, to build walls and cities and languages that make us different. And we succeeded. We succeeded so well that the animals no longer see us as one of them. They see us as something else entirely. Something outside the system. Something that doesn't belong. You walk back into your house, set your keys on the counter, and the world outside begins to slowly, tentatively reset. The doe might come back to the clover in an hour. The fox might resume its hunt. But the shadow you left behind will linger far longer than your actual presence. Your scent will stay on the grass. Your voice will echo in the neural pathways of the birds. The landscape of fear you created won't disappear just because you closed the door. You've left your mark. You've reminded the wild that you are still here and that the rules are still yours. You might think you're at home, safe and sound in your living room, but out there in the twilight, the memory of you is still hunting. We like to tell ourselves that we are the stewards of nature, the protectors of the wild, the ones who care. But the wild doesn't care about our intentions. It only cares about our impact. And our impact is a silence that follows us wherever we go. You are the only monster that doesn't need to show its teeth to win.